The extradition process of self-professed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary will be in the Malawi courts today. Last year, the magistrate ruled that South African witnesses should testify in Malawi, but the state appealed this. Our reporter Tshegohaco is following that story for us, and she joins us in studio this morning. Tshegohaco, it's great to see you. Good morning. So, what's expected to happen today? And I suppose you'll need to give our viewers some background to how we got to this situation that's unfolding in Malawi.
So, Michelle, the big thing that is taking place today is the issue around the South African witnesses, whether or not they should appear in the Malawi courts to testify, or whether they can actually do it virtually. Last year, as you've mentioned, the magistrate ruled that they need to appear in the Malawi courts to testify.
That's the magistrate in South Africa or the magistrate in Malawi?
The magistrate in Malawi.
Right.
So everything is now unfolding in Malawi because that's where they currently are, and that's where they are residing, Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary. So everything is now unfolding in the Malawi courts. Of course, South Africa wanting there to be an extradition process to bring them back into South Africa to face the charges that they face. So last year, the magistrate in Malawi ruling that they need to be the South African witnesses, about 3 of them, and these are witnesses that had made allegations of sexual assault against Shepherd Bushiri. Their names appear in the extradition bundle, and they were then expected to testify in Malawi. This was a ruling that was made by the magistrate in Malawi back then in July or so of last year. But this then was, the state then appealed this, the state in Malawi, appealing this and saying that it just doesn't make sense, and mainly because they were concerned for the witnesses' safety, them being in Malawi, a country where Bushiri is loved, where he was born, and they were concerned about the safety of the witnesses. And so with that, then the state appealed, and that is what we are expecting to hear today. It will be heard in chambers, so we'll only be getting just the ruling from the magistrate, well, from the higher court really. So it moved from the magistrate's court to the higher court, so the judge there will make the ruling as to whether these witnesses need to testify in Malawi or not.
So the witnesses themselves here in South Africa, have we heard anything from them?
Very little from the South African witnesses. And the big thing is their own safety. They are concerned for their safety. They are concerned that they will be targeted if they say anything against Shepherd Bushiri. So that's the main reason that we've heard very little from the South African witnesses. But the ones that we have had some kind of contact with, they have said to us that they would prefer not to go to Malawi, that they prefer to be in South Africa to testify virtually. And this is the thing that the state was also saying, that it just does not make sense that they must go all the way to Malawi for this testimony when they can actually do it in South Africa, and they can do it virtually. They can sign their statements, of course, from South Africa. It can then be sent through via email or whatever to the Malawi courts, and that is the main issue that was then being raised by the state last year.
And who's representing these witnesses? Because, as you say, the state in Malawi appealed the decision that these witnesses should fly to that country for the case. Who's representing these South African witnesses?
It's mainly the Malawian state at this stage. We do know that Shepherd Bushiri, of course, has got some lawyers and attorneys in South Africa that also represent him when he was here. But at this moment, because the extradition process is taking place in Malawi, the state in Malawi is the one that needs to think of the well-being of the people in South Africa and the ones that would possibly need to go to Malawi.
And then, of course, there's the question of self-proclaimed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary. What have we heard from them up until now?
So they've really been posting a lot on their social media profiles, still having their services. You remember that their daughter died a few months ago, and even from that, they are still having their services in Malawi. They are still continuing living the life that they would have lived even in South Africa. So that is the big thing that we are seeing from them, that it does not seem that they are fazed by this extradition case or anything that is going to come out of it. Just to remind the viewer, Michelle, that this is a case that has been unfolding for the longest time. They are facing fraud and money laundering charges. And this is something that we need to remember when it comes to what they are currently facing and why the South African government wants to extradite them back. They were in court and they were then granted bail. This was in November of 2020, if I'm not mistaken, when they were then granted bail. And the bail conditions included that they could not leave South Africa. But a few weeks after that, we then heard that they had left South Africa and that they were in Malawi. The questions were raised around how did they even leave the country and go to a whole other country. It is their country of birth, if I'm not mistaken, for both of them.
Yes.
But the issue is, how did they leave South Africa and go there in the first place? So that was the concern from the South African government as well. They then started the process of extraditing the two back into the country to face the charges that they actually currently have in the country. And that is how this extradition process is now unfolding in the Malawi court. So it's still going to be a long way, it seems, till we find out when they will actually come back into the country at this stage. I mean, just for us to hear whether the witnesses need to testify or not. From there, we are expecting that the Bushiri's lawyer, they will then decide to, unfold something else to continue to prolong the process of the actual extradition case getting underway. So all of this started in about November of 2020 when they fled the country, and it has all just unraveled since then.
And of course, slowed down by the effects of COVID-19 as well, no doubt. Tshegohaco, Moagi, thanks very much indeed for that update. And of course, Tshegohaco will be tracking that story for us right here in South Africa.